Good evening, you are watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. Sultan Qaboos University announces the start of a comprehensive preservation and documentation plan for archaeological sites in the Walaya of Saham. The Ministry of Manpower announces the employment of 7,580 job seekers in private sector institutions and establishments. And dozens are killed and several others wounded in a suicide car bomb attack claimed by the Taliban in Afghanistan's capital, Kabul. Those were the headlines. Now for the news in detail. The Archaeology Department in the Sultan Qaboos University, in cooperation with the Ministry of Heritage and Culture, announced the start of a comprehensive preservation and documentation plan for archaeological sites in the Walaya of Saham. The department said that it will work on the renovation of some important buildings in the area and prepare them to be one of the features of Omani civilization and to be touristic landmarks. These old sites date back to around 4,500 years and contributed in strengthening the relations between global civilizations during that period, in addition to trade activities. The Ministry of Manpower said that 7,580 job seekers were employed in private sector institutions and establishments since the start of the implementation of the Council of Ministers' decision on the 3rd of last December to provide job opportunities for 25,000 job seekers. The ministry's statistics pointed out that 5,122 males and 2,458 females were employed during the period from 3rd of December 2017 until 22nd of January 2018. Activities of the first International Women's Championship for tent pegging continue in the Walaya of Kasab in the Governorate of Musandam. It included 3 rounds where the participants will compete to capture various types of wedges. The final day will include 6 rounds and teams from Jordan, Egypt, Sudan, Australia and South Africa will participate in the championship. The elections of Oman Chamber of Commerce and Industry for membership of the Board of Directors of the Chamber and its other branches will start tomorrow, Sunday. The voting will start from 8 AM until 6 PM as the Committee of the Oman Chamber of Commerce and Industry Elections pointed out that election centres are prepared to receive the voters and are equipped with all the necessary means to make the election successful. The gross domestic product of the Sultanate witnessed an increase by 10.1% by the third quarter of 2017 to reach more than 20.3 billion Omani riyals. The oil activities recorded a growth by 23.9% to reach 6.2 billion Omani riyals. Meanwhile, non-oil activities rose by 4.9% to reach 1.7 billion Omani riyals. Industrial activities recorded an increase by 2.8% by the end of the third quarter of 2016. Syria's main opposition negotiating body today announced it would boycott next week's peace conference in Russia. The boycott of the Russia-backed conference in Sochi came after a vote held in Vienna, Austria, where a United Nations-led conference took place. Russia has been steering a separate negotiating track in Astana and now in the Black Sea resort of Sochi, where the conference is scheduled to start on Monday with the participation of some 1,600 representatives of the Syrian government and opposition. Opposition figures have accused Russia, which backs the Syrian government, of trying to undermine UN-led talks. The boycott also comes against a backdrop of escalating violence in northern Syria, where Turkey has launched a push into the Afrin enclave to clear the area of Syrian Kurdish militia, which it considers to be a national security threat. A suicide car bomber killed nearly 100 people and wounded scores of others in an attack claimed by the Taliban today in Afghanistan's capital, Kabul. The bombing came just a week after Taliban militants killed 22 at an international hotel in the city. An official said that the attacker used an ambulance to get through a security checkpoint, telling police he was taking a patient to a nearby hospital. The attacker then detonated his explosives at a second checkpoint. The Taliban claimed responsibility for the bombing, which took place near the government's former Interior Ministry building. Also nearby are the European Union and Indian consulates. The offensive against the Kurdish YPG militia continued today. The Turkish army fired artillery across the border into Syria from Hasar in Turkey. Since the start of the incursion, dubbed Operation Olive Branch by Ankara, Erdogan has said that Turkish forces would push east towards the town of Manbij, part of Kurdish-held territory some 100 kilometers east of Afrin, where US troops were deployed to deter Kurdish and US-backed rebels from clashing. Any Turkish advance towards Manbij could affect US efforts to stabilize northern Syria, where the United States has about 2,000 troops, officially as part of the international coalition against Daesh group. US Defense Secretary Jim Mattis said that Olympics talks between North and South Korea should not distract from the internationally agreed goal of denuclearizing the North. After talks with his South Korean counterpart, Song Young-moo, at US Pacific Command headquarters in Hawaii, Mattis said that the regime of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un remained a threat to the entire world. The Defense Secretary said it's an international problem that requires an international solution, adding that a campaign of diplomatic pressure would continue unabated. But he warned North Korea that although the international response would be diplomacy-led, it would be backed up by military options to allow negotiators to speak from a position of strength. Floodwaters were nearing their peak in Paris today, with the rain-swollen Seine River engulfing scenic quays and threatening cellars and museum basements. Unusually heavy rains have engorged the Seine and other rivers in the region, forcing a halt to all boat traffic in Paris, including tourist cruises. Some quayside restaurants were submerged and roads and parks were closed, along with the bottom floor of the Louvre Museum. Meanwhile, fishermen took advantage of the rushing, boat-free river to look for lunch. However, authorities said that the flooding won't be as bad as forecast earlier this week. The river is expected to peak in Paris tomorrow at 6 meters or less on the Austerlitz scale, well below the 8.6 meters hit in record floods in 1910. Still to come in our news bulletin. Omani old neighbourhoods are a typical example of Omani traditional architecture. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman Television. The Sultanate's pavilion, participating in Al Khartoum International Exhibition in Sudan in its 35th edition, attracted many visitors from various segments of Sudanese society. The Public Authority for Industrial Estates, represented by the National Campaign to Promote Omani Products, Origin Oman, continues its first participation in the exhibition in its endeavour to find new outlets for Omani products. The Omani Pavilion comprises a number of Omani companies in industrial fields such as foodstuff, leather products, energy products, electrical transformers and cleaning materials. More than 152,000 commercial activities were recorded in the Sultanate during the third quarter of 2017. The statistics by the Ministry of Commerce and Industry pointed out that the commercial activity in the same period was centred in the Governorate of Muscat by 34.3% of the total volume of such activities in the country. It was followed by the Governorate of North Batna by 15.6% and Dhofar by 12.2%. The number of applications for national and international trademarks, patents, author rights and industrial models reached around 31,034 in 2017. The ministry represented in the Department of Intellectual Rights clarified that the applications were in the fields of registration, transport, usufruct licenses and advertising, which reach more than 30,000, as the patents applications neared 400. In order to encourage school and university students in the Walaya of Al-Mazyona, the Wali's office in Al-Mazyona organised the first annual honouring ceremony for excellent students. The event was held in cooperation with the Directorate General of Education in the Governorate of Dhofar. The event came to support and encourage students to exert more efforts to achieve excellence in their study. Omani old neighbourhoods are a typical example for Omani traditional architecture with their old houses, mosques, castles and forts. It shows the creativity of Omani people in the field of architecture. Ad-Duri's neighbourhood in the Walaya of Aqabal in the Governorate of North Sharqiya shows part of this history and treasure with its old houses, decorations, architectural designs and towers. It has two big gates, locally known as Darwaza. They represent the only entrances for the neighbourhood. Now for the general weather forecast around the Sultanate. Clear skies will prevail over the Sultanate with chances of low clouds and fog late at night and early morning over the governorates of Sharqiya and Worcester and coastal areas of the Sea of Oman. Winds will be southeasterly light to moderate. Seas will be slight with a maximum wave height of 1 metre. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. Sultan Qaboos University announces the start of a comprehensive preservation and documentation plan for archaeological sites in the Walaya of Saham. The Ministry of Manpower announces the employment of 7,580 job seekers in private sector institutions and establishments. And dozens are killed and several others wounded in a suicide car bomb attack claimed by the Taliban in Afghanistan's capital, Kabul. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studios, it's good night.